Hello, hi, and welcome or welcome back to the Strategic Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Blue, and I'm a business astrologer here to help you use astrology so that you can start, grow, and scale your online business. And this is a very special episode of the podcast because we are talking all about the astrology for 2025 for business owners. I do this episode every year, and it's always one of my favorites because looking at the astrology ahead or checking in throughout 2025 just really helps to stay on top of things. The biggest benefit to bringing astrology into your business strategy is that it helps you to plan not just the present, but for the future. And when it comes to incorporating astrology into your business strategy, it's important to look at the transits and really understand what it is that they're representing, what changes they bring to the horizon, and how they can benefit you as a business owner. So in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down the highlights for the astrology for 2025 so that you can plan to make this your best year in business yet. Or if you're listening to this during 2025, you can use this to reflect on perhaps some things that may have occurred at certain times throughout the year so that you could be better equipped to incorporate these changes into your business. So with all that in mind, let's get into it. Now, before we can really dive into the astrology for 2025, we have to look back at what happened in 2024. And this really felt like a year of waiting, almost like sitting in a waiting room, at least for me and for the clients that I've worked with throughout this year. So many of us have made all these great plans and promises for change and have felt kind of restricted or stuck because we haven't been able to make the momentum that we have wanted to. And 2025 has similar energy. There's a lot of similarities between a lot of the major transits that are happening throughout 2025 and what has occurred in 2024. However, I really see there being this influx of change, and the transits of 2025 really reflect this momentum to do something different. And I feel like that is the major theme of 2025, creating something new, choosing a different path, and going a different route, a new route, a fresh route, especially with the changes that are occurring. And so we're going to start this episode with diving into some of the major ingresses that are happening in 2025. Now, an ingress is when a planet moves from one sign to another. So it is entering a new sign. And we have a lot of this activity going on in 2025, which is why the year can really be defined by looking at change. The first ingress that I really want to talk about are the North and the South nodes. Now, a lot of people have been mollywopped by this throughout 2024 because the North node and the South node have been in Aries and Libra respectively. And it's been a challenging transit. We've definitely seen a lot of shaking up and momentum when it comes to the public sphere in regards to these nodes, and the nodes ingressing into Pisces and Virgo are definitely going to be change a lot of people are going to be looking forward to, and some of us need to prepare better for. I'm saying this to myself, especially. I'm a Pisces sun and a Virgo moon, so these nodes are going to be deeply impacting me personally on a deep level. Now, the North node and the South node, they change signs about every 2 years. And so we're going to see this change happen exactly at the beginning of the year in January. On January 29th specifically, that's when the North node is going to be moving into Pisces and the South node will be moving into Virgo at 1:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the nodes will stay in Pisces and Virgo until July 2026. So we have a good long while to be working with this energy. Now, this is specific for if you have Pisces placements, but there's been a lot more restriction for Pisces placements than usual because Saturn has been sitting in Pisces for the good last few years. And we're definitely going to see some relief with this. Saturn is finally leaving Pisces, and that's actually the next ingress I'm going to be talking about. But we're going to see this relief happening, this release of pressure, because Saturn's nature is to be malefic, to bring challenges and to bring restriction. And for Pisces placements in particular, this restriction goes against the nature of the archetype of Pisces. Pisces wants to move freely. It wants to just be free to do its thing, to be flexible and adaptable because it is a mutable sign. Saturn is restricted. It's rigid. It's very cold and defined in its movement. And so these two natures just naturally oppose. They naturally bring about challenges. And with Saturn leaving Pisces, there is definitely going to be the sense of relief wherever you have Pisces in your chart. And with the North Node moving in, the North Node signifying a point of excess within your chart, looking at the North Node from a traditional astrology lens. So this area in your chart is going to be feeling this relief, right? There's going to be a amount of excess in the Pisces area of your chart. Now, excess can be extra energy. It could be extra movement, extra attention, or like a leaning towards embracing this part of your chart more so than other areas of your chart. And perhaps this can work to your benefit, right? If you are a Pisces sun or a Pisces rising, then this excess could work in your benefit in considering more personal goals, how you would like to present yourself out into the world if you are Pisces rising, or if you're a Pisces sun, where your vitality lies, where you are really excited, how you can bring your gifts and your strengths forward by embracing more of that Pisces archetype. However, the South Node is also going to play a role with this as well. South Node deviates a point of natural decrease within your chart. So the South Node being in Virgo, there's going to be this natural decreasing in areas what Virgo signifies. So where can there be an active balancing, which the North Node being in Aries and the South Node being in Libra has definitely pointed us towards? How can that be continued even as the nodes move into this next phase of the cycle? That's definitely going to be something to work on throughout 2025 and into 2026 before these nodes actually change into the next phase of the cycle. So that is the first major transit that is happening right at the beginning of 2025 to be on the lookout for. Now, the second ingress that I want to talk about is Saturn finally moving out of Pisces. I am personally very excited for this. I'm quite over Saturn in Pisces, to be honest. So Saturn is finally going to be moving into Aries on May 24th at 11:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, Saturn is the slowest moving traditional planet that we have. However, all of the outer planets have ingressed into a new sign. Pluto has actually moved into Aquarius in late 2024, but Uranus and Neptune are also going to be changing signs and ingressing into new signs in 2025 as well. But Saturn, like I mentioned, is a restrictive planet. Its nature is to restrict and to confine, to bring back in order to restrain and observe on how to move forward. The analogy I always like to give my clients when it comes to working with Saturn is that it's bringing about challenges because it wants you to prepare for what it is that you're calling in. With Saturn moving into Aries, thinking about the Aries archetype, Aries represents the warrior, the child, the first, the son, right? In a lot of ways, the most vulnerable, and also in a lot of ways, the most willing to move forward, to take action, to be the first. And so there may be restriction in the area of your chart where Aries is ruling, that house that it rules. If you have any planets here, Saturn is preparing you for a level of mastery when it comes to this area of your chart. And so rather than fight against the restriction that Saturn wants to bring about, how can you work to embrace it? How can you ease into being the first by adding in a layer of preparation to really solidify your stance and in order to craft your leadership in this area of your chart and make it a little bit easier to assimilate into? What is important to note is that Saturn, because of its slow moving nature, also rules over trends, the nature of trends, the trend cycle. So looking at and reflecting on the last time that Saturn was in Aries, which was late 1998 into 1999, there's going to be a resurgence of that same trend cycle. There's going to be a resurgence of maybe popular themes or cultural aspects that were prominent during that time in this current trend cycle, and perhaps brought about by a fresh change or a fresh perspective. These are definitely things to look forward to and perhaps incorporate in your own business if it's relevant as well. Now, the last ingress that I do want to talk about is Jupiter. So Jupiter is the greater benefic planet. Its nature is aligned to Santa Claus. It wants to bring ease and rewards and benefits to the chart. As the greater benefic, its nature is to bring joy and benevolence to the area of the chart that it is ruling. So at the time of this recording, Jupiter is currently in Gemini. It's going to be moving into Cancer on June 9th at 5:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is actually quite exciting because Jupiter is actually detriment in Gemini. However, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. And what this means is that it does its best work. It's able to truly be Jupiterian when it is in the sign of Cancer. With this Jupiter ingress, I definitely see there being a sense of relief that is happening for more of these challenging transits, especially if they are creating challenging aspects within your personal chart. Jupiter is also the planet of teaching, of learning, of leadership, in the sense that you are bringing your knowledge and sharing that knowledge with others. This can definitely be encouraging for you as a business owner, and this can be, depending on your own personal chart, a transit that you can use for your benefit and your business growth and momentum within 2025. So now let's talk about some of the retrogrades that are happening in 2025. Now, retrogrades are not scary. They happen every single year, multiple times a year, actually, because the sun and the moon are the only planets that do not retrograde. So retrogrades are definitely a time to embrace the as I have talked about before on this podcast. And what I mean by that is embracing the energy of reflecting, coming back to yourself, reconsidering, reevaluating. It's not so much a time for taking forward moving action or new action or making a decision to do something. However, it is a time to reflect, to reevaluate what it is that you are doing and if it's actually in alignment with where you want to go. Now, especially as a business owner, this is an important time to be planning, to incorporate within your business planning overall. If you can help it, you definitely don't want to be doing any launches or any forward moving action during retrogrades unless this aligns with your specific chart, which you can figure that out by working with an astrologer and getting a reading. So retrogrades are a really great time to reevaluate what is working in your business, to evaluate the effectiveness of your systems, your strategies, to review the data and the information that you have gathered and create a plan to take action once the retrograde has ended and that planet is moving forward, especially when we're talking about Mercury retrograde, which is one of the most common retrogrades that happen and also scare the living daylights out of people. So Mercury retrograde is going to occur 3 times in 2025. The first Mercury retrograde is going to be happening during March, which is one of the most, action-packed months astrologically in 2025. All of the Mercury retrogrades actually in 2025 are going to be occurring in fire signs predominantly. So Mercury retrograde is first going to happen on March 15th until April 7th, and it's going to be primarily in Aries. The second Mercury retrograde is going to be occurring on July 18th until August 11th in Leo. And the third and final Mercury retrograde of 2025 is going to occur on November 9th until the 29th. So pretty much the entire month of November in Sagittarius and a little bit into Scorpio where it's going to retrograde. So having Mercury retrograding in fire signs, much like it did in 2024, is definitely a signal to be cautious on what it is that you want to do. Fire is a very passionate element. It's an element that wants to do. It wants to take action. It wants to move forward. And these are definitely not going to be dates that you're going to want to mess around and do that. It's also going to be a time where you are highly tempted, more than likely, to just say things and not necessarily think them out. Okay. So when Mercury is retrograding in general, it is always a good time to reflect and review and to consider what it is that you want to say before you say it. So taking care to review, reassess, maybe get a second opinion on something, especially when it comes to marketing and promotional material. Errors and typos and things of that nature are definitely par for the course during Mercury retrogrades, but especially when they're in fire signs, it's like being so excited about saying something that you stumble over your words. So definitely taking the time to review what it is that you are saying or writing or doing before putting it out into the world, where it may be harder to edit once it's kind of out there. Mercury is also the planet of commerce and business. So these are not dates that I would plan necessarily to have a launch unless we're looking at your specific chart in a reading. If you have Mercury naturally retrograde in your chart, or any planet that is naturally retrograding in your chart, you may find that that planet's retrograde is a time for great clarity, and it may be a time for you to take a lot of positive forward moving action and for that to be well received. But again, this is really going to depend on the specifics of your chart. But overall, Mercury retrograde is something that happens quite frequently. I have a whole episode where I talked about how to prepare your business for Mercury retrograde when it happens. I definitely recommend checking that out if you have questions about what you should be considering before moving forward with your business and with certain events during Mercury retrograde. The next planetary retrograde that we're going to be talking about is Venus, and this is, surprise, surprise, also happening in March. So Venus is the planet of attraction, the things that we are attracted to and what we find attractive, and it's actually going retrograde in Aries and Pisces from March 1st until April 12th. So you may find that there is a shift in themes of attraction during Venus retrograde, as well as a time for you to consider changing up or switching up or reevaluating what Venus represents and how you are presenting yourself out into the world. So this may be a time that you may be reevaluating your own marketing strategies, your own presentation, wanting to switch up your branding. I highly recommend embracing Venus retrograde as a way to reevaluate how you can align your business to being branded around the energy of your midheaven, which I always recommend as a recipe for success. The next retrograde that is going to happen is also going to be at the beginning of the year. There's a lot of activity going on in quarter one astrologically, and that's going to be Mars retrograde. This is going to occur from January 1st, so New Year's Day, until February 23rd in Leo and Cancer. Mars retrograde is not a time to play with. I think more so than any other planet, Mars retrograde is really a time that brings about frustration more so than Mercury retrograde, because there is such energy around, I want to take action, I want to do something, but I feel restricted, I feel confined, I feel like I can't do it yet. And that's quite frustrating. Mars is the planet of action. It wants to do things. It doesn't want to sit around and think and consider and just stay in your head. It wants to be doing something. And so Mars retrograde is always going to bring about challenges that really deeply affect your ability to take action. So a really good way to use this energy is to embrace the nature of a retrograde. If you are going to be sitting and confined and holding off on taking action that you want to take, how can you use this time to prepare to make that action a lot easier to take? Are there certain steps within the planning process that may make the action easier to take? Are there certain steps that you can take behind the scenes that aren't necessarily for the general public that might be a better fit to do during a retrograde? All those things are worth considering, especially when we're talking about a Mars retrograde specifically and how it will affect your business. In regards to all of these retrogrades, definitely consider how they will play a role with the public nature, the front-facing work in your business. But I think to really utilize and embrace the energy of a retrograde within your business, you also have to embrace the fact that not everything you do for your business is for the public to consume. Sometimes the action that needs to be taken is best done behind the scenes, behind closed doors, or maybe just for your eyes only. So really considering the times throughout the year that most align with you taking that public forward-facing action, but then also when it makes sense for you to retreat and to take those private-facing actions as well in order to build up the momentum. None of us are designed to be taking constant action every single month throughout the year. There needs to be periods of rest in order for those periods of action to really accelerate and to do what they are designed to do best for your business. The next planet we're going to be talking about that will retrograde is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter has 2 retrogrades in 2025, the first occurring from January 1st until February 4th in Gemini. However, there will be a second retrograde in the later half of the year in Q4 to be specific. That will occur from November 11th until December 31st in Cancer. As I predicted last year, there has definitely been an increase in this Jupiterian desire to share information, to talk, to create YouTubes and podcasts and blogs and all kinds of consumable media and content. And this has definitely spilled over into marketing and the ways that people are driving away from corporate and even social media first marketing and are really embracing more individualistic or community-focused ways of marketing their business. And so this Jupiter retrograde especially is going to be a really good time to evaluate, are these marketing channels that maybe you have embraced in your own business, are they actually worth the change? Have they brought about the change and the benefits that you would like to see in your business? And if not, if you haven't considered alternative ways of perhaps marketing your business or aligning your marketing strategy to better fit how you authentically are and the best ways for you to present information out into the world, Jupiter retrograde is going to be a really good time to do that. And finally, we have Saturn retrograde, which will occur from July 13th until November 27th in Aries and Pisces. So even though Saturn is officially going into Aries this year, it'll also retrograde back into Pisces for a good portion of 2025. Now, definitely a downside with the outer planets with Jupiter and Saturn is that because they move more slowly, their retrogrades are also going to be longer as well. So definitely noticing that, especially with Saturn, having that Saturn retrograde, that last hurrah, that last burst of Saturnian wisdom to share with us, because Saturn actually really thrives in the delay. It rules over delays and consequences. It's definitely worth considering how the Saturn in Pisces transit has affected you personally, how you've worked with it in your business, and how you can continue to incorporate these lessons within your business moving forward in 2025, and also building upon them as Saturn ingresses into Aries. So with the overall planetary energy and the transits in 2025, the biggest thing that I want to impart on you and how to use this best in your business is to not fight against the nature of the planets. They're there for a reason. The change that is going to occur, that is a predominant theme throughout 2025, they're not there to see you fail. I actually am quite optimistic in nature. And as an astrologer, I never feel like the planets are rooting for us to fail. Instead, they want us to succeed. They want us to do our best work. But we have to do our part as individuals to not fight against the lessons that they are here to bestow upon us. So if there are any of these transits that feel particularly challenging, it's worth investigating why that is. Why do you feel this sense of resistance to these transits in particular? Are there ways that you can begin to work with them now to make it a lot easier for when these transits actually occur officially in 2025? So I'm very curious to know which transit you are most looking forward to and which are going to be the most challenging for you. And then, of course, if you would like more support in working not just with the astrology for 2025, but in general, bringing astrology into your business strategy, then I highly recommend you join my Astrology for Business email list. This is a space where I bring even more in-depth astrology guidance for business owners in a really tangible way. So if you are not already subscribed there, I highly recommend that you join us because it's going to be really exciting. And it is also the first place that I share exciting news, such as the signature program that I am launching in 2025 to really help you go even deeper with all of this. So with all of that said, I can't wait to see you on the email list and in the next episode. Bye.